Tess, if, if the question is for Mihai or Tess, please let us know too. Okay, so I'll begin asking. I'll begin with Mihai, and how did your passion for film start, Tess?
Oh, great. Is that for you, Mihai?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it arrived from a scarcity of films that I lived through my childhood. I was born in Romania, and actually, Federico, I have to disclose to everyone that Federico invited me to speak deeply and at length about my childhood problems. So here I go. I'm very inspired. But to make it very short, basically, I was born in Romania during the dictatorship, and I left when I was 12 in '84. And actually, there was probably, I think, 1 or 2 films per week on television, and pretty much nothing on theaters, except like very, very rarely. So films were literally like the thing not to miss during the week. So that created a specific bond with film and the fascination for film. So, but I didn't do anything in film literally until I would say 20 years ago. So my career was in tech. I'm a software engineer that got into the world of software when Web 1.0 came out. So the first browser. Yeah, I know. Wow. I'm from the dial-up generation. CompuServe and AOL. So I grew up with the sound of the modem connecting.
I remember that.
Yeah, well, there you go. So Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. So here we are. So actually, I got into film literally when I was I was raised in France. I lived in Latin America for a number of years, and I ended up in Miami for 2 or 3 years. And I lived in Miami exactly when Netflix launched in '99, and in 2000 I subscribed to Netflix. And Netflix was 1 year old, and for those who remember, Netflix had just the online DVD rentals, right? It was a DVD thing, and I said, God, that's a revolutionary idea. It's like an on-demand service, but on DVD. And I went back to Europe, to France, to set up a company similar to that, with the idea that I'm going to start with DVDs, and as soon as technology is ready, I'm going to jump into streaming, because obviously that was what I had in mind, in my engineering mind. And that's what I did. I created, it became the largest online DVD rental company in continental Europe. Then we launched streaming in 2005. That was like 3 years before Netflix launched their own streaming service. Became very successful, and I sold the company in 2008. And then that put me in contact with all the major studios and the content distributors and negotiating films, and besides, of course, being involved with the platforms and the logistics and the end users. So you'll see where the story ends, because we're going to arrive at the Web 3 and decentralization, and I'm going to pause there. But that's for people kind of understand my journey and why I'm so fascinated by what we can do today. So after that company, I went into film distribution, and I set up a content aggregator that basically negotiates rights from major studios, independents, large media companies for film, TV, documentary, live content, and packages it for streamers around the world. So we operated maybe around 50, 60 different streaming platforms at that time, between Latin America, Southeast Asia, Middle East, Europe. So the entire value chain, from licensing to the platforms themselves, to the end users and the consumption, I witnessed it over 12 years, literally. With all the great things and all the inconsistencies. And I fell into crypto in 2013 when I started to mine Bitcoin. And in 2017, when Ethereum came up, it was just a revolution to see what you could do with the blockchain in media, particularly, how you can create digital scarcity, which wasn't possible to do before, what smart contracts could do, and how we can put back into the center of the equation the creator, the audience, ownership, and all these things. So this is when a number of bulbs switched on in my mind about how to do decentralized media and what to do next. So that's a bit my background story. Long story.
Very, very good one. And what about you, Tess?
Ooh, I love this question. I think it's really insightful. I think for me, so I was probably passionate about film really, really young, really early. My dad was very theatrical. As a kid, I would, he really encouraged me to pursue my passion for the arts. So I was involved in theater starting really young age, probably like 8 years old. Even younger when I think about like earliest theater style education, but I would look at things like The Sound of Music and get inspired about what I could do with my life. And I remember specifically like turning 10 years old and thinking, I want to be in films because or involved in films because I want there to be some kind of permanent record of the time in history that I lived, or have a say in what gets recorded and documented for the next generation to learn about my generation and era. So I think for me, that's where my passion for film began. I got to have some amazing exposure as a young adult doing, amazing internships that really enabled me to scope out what could be possible in this realm of being like a producer or involved in creating content. And I got to be exposed to amazing filmmakers like Fisher Stevens really early in my career. But it wasn't really until I was 30 years old that I got my first job actually working in film, and pursued that. And so, yeah, for the last 4 years, I've been leaning into that passion, and it's amazing to be able to discuss what I think is possible given the new scope of opportunity with what we call Film 3.
Cool, very interesting. So I'm going to ask the first question to you guys is, how do you guys see distribution evolving?
Wow. Okay, so let's start with the beginning. What is distribution? Because I mean, why do I? It's not a rhetorical question. It's just that Web3 provides so many powerful tools and paradigm shifts that using the same ways of thinking about content as before is not wrong. It's all good, but it's really exactly the same thing like what we did with television when it came out. We started to film a radio show, and people were excited because, okay, well, now we can see the guy speaking on the radio. But that's not a big deal until people realize that, oh, but maybe we can do something more with that, right? And television was really bored. So I think if we try to copy paste what we used to do until now and do it with Web3, yeah, it's going to be a bit better. Okay, NFTs can finance a couple of things and so on, and decentralization, but it wouldn't change much. It will be a marginal evolution. So what I invite people all the time is to rethink why we're doing what we're doing for 100 years and how those things could be done differently once you understand what Web3 allows us to do. Humans have evolved to the point where we are because we're good at one thing, essentially, which is creating tools and using those tools in a very smart way to improve or do new things, which includes building new tools. Without tools, we wouldn't be here as a super evolved civilization, right? We'll still be living in caves, which there's probably nothing wrong with that. We're probably more happier living in the caves, but we like evolution. So that's why I'm saying, I mean, let's question what distribution means. Distribution is here because at some point, technology created cameras and then sound, and that was expensive to produce. And then it was so expensive that the only way to bring it to the people was to carry it somewhere where people could watch it, in a theater, in a caravan, traveling around the country, in villages to project the film. And then when TV come up, well, we have to beam, no pun intended, although, to send the signal to people's houses, and that's distribution as well. And then, we could do some cool devices that are called VHSs, and we could send tapes. And by the way, the whole industry was against VHS. They were thinking that it's going to kill cinema at that time. The head of the MPA was absolutely against VHS, and then DVDs, and then streamers, and so on. But let's go back. Why are we making films? Honestly, all the filmmakers here, why are you making films in the first place? Because you want to tell a story. That's where it starts. You want to tell a story, and storytelling didn't start with cinema or with television. It started precisely when we were living in the caves. Okay? So in those caves, we started to tell stories. And the stories were told, there was no distribution in telling stories.
Around the campfire.
Yeah, a campfire. And distribution was actual people who were traveling, miles because they were hunting or, trading things and telling stories that they heard. So they were the distribution. People were the distribution. And pretty much the human culture evolved and enriched itself through human distribution, right? So why I'm saying that is that I believe that Web3, to understand it, goes back to that, where distribution is, again, the community who's doing it. It's recentering the entire, let's say, economy around the storyteller, who's the creator, and those who want to be engaged and participate in this story. And that might sound like, what the hell is the guy talking about? But if we get deeper into how that can work, you need to keep that in mind, that you cannot say, well, I'm going to replace Netflix with Web3. Yeah, I mean, it's not on Web3 Netflix, but what does it change deeply? Not much, right? So distribution is how the story gets conveyed. And how do we keep doing more stories? Well, we can do stories and film stories, and we can do more of that. First, because our stories are being watched and enjoyed by people. And second, because we can make money with that as well, so we can pay for that. Okay. And another element of thought, and I will stop here, and Tess, I want to jump in as well, because that's a continuing line of thought, actually, is that we have to remember that people want to watch content. Nobody wants to pay for content. It's not that people are pirates. It's just people don't want to pay for content. Nobody wants to pay for content. And don't get me wrong, people don't want to pay for content. Doesn't mean people not willing to support the filmmaker. That's a different topic. Actually, what people want to pay for is experiences. People want to pay for belonging. People want to pay to support a creator, but nobody really wants to pay for content. It's the distributors who want to get paid. That's different. It's the streamers, it's the theaters, it's the broadcasters, but they keep the money. That money is not seen really by the creators, right? So, I mean, I need to put that, to set a bit the stage if we talk about decentralization, we have to kind of do a paradigm shift in the way we think.
Good. Thanks, Mihai. That's
Frederico, I guess I'm curious, as you were hearing Mihai, I love how Mihai explains these ideas and concepts, but I'm wondering how many people with us are familiar with Web3, or this term that we've been using called Film 3, which is really the process of filmmaking and film distribution using the tools available via blockchain technologies. So I wanted to take just like a quick survey of who here with us is familiar with any of these topics, or if we should kind of go over some of them.
I think go ahead and explain, because if it might take them too long to reply. Some of them are watching on on their cell phone. So go ahead, please explain.
Yeah, perfect. So just so everybody, so we're all kind of speaking the same language. I'm sure many of you are aware, and some of you are probably just coming into learning about this or hearing about this for the first time. The idea of Web3, right? As Mihai was explaining, we kind of have Web 1.0, or the very early nascent days of the internet, and then what we've been living in recent times, in the era of social media, YouTube, etc., is what we refer to now as Web 2.0. What we're looking at is this next era of the internet, so to speak, one which is much more fair and transparent, and where things are kind of run on top of blockchain technologies. So, when it comes to things like film and film distribution, when you think about all the different people involved in making a film, and how do those people get properly acknowledged, credited, compensated, I think that's where this is a super incredibly valuable opportunity for all the different types of creators who are not the top whatever 1%. And I don't even like using the framework of top whatever. I guess the most visible, most noticed percentage, which have been able to make a career that is lucrative, because of access points or relationships via, streamers. So this creates a lot more opportunity for many different kinds of creators who are creating many different kinds of content to find the audience that is right for them, and to make a sustainable income from that content. Mihai, do you have any thoughts on what I just shared?
Yes, I think it's perfect what you shared. I would add a couple of other things to it, which is what blockchain is just a technology. It's just something it's on the internet, but it's kind of a technology that allows a couple of things that were not possible before. It's like imagine like a huge, massive database, a ledger, on which you can store data, and you can also run programs that's really not owned by anybody. It runs on thousands of computers that run around the world. You can run one in your house, companies can run them in the data center. So it's completely decentralized. The code is open source, and that's what's called a Bitcoin blockchain or Ethereum and many others. The fact that it's open source and nobody can take them down because they're completely decentralized, and because there's a token that has a value, so there's a lot of money involved in that, and because it's also a computer, because you can run what's called smart contracts, which are completely programmable and run by the blockchain itself without anyone supervising that, or no centralized authority. That means that ownership is absolute, right? So if you own something on the blockchain, it's really yours. Your Bitcoin, your ETH is yours. Your smart contract is yours. and you can embed anything in a smart contract. One of those could be an NFT, which is just a program that contains data, code, pictures, images, links to other files that can be stored as well in a decentralized way. You don't have to understand all that, really. It's there, it works. You don't have to understand how your email works. I can tell you about SMTP, HTML, TCP/IP. That doesn't mean anything. But you know what a browser is? You know how to go on Airbnb and book a house, and you know how to send an email without understanding how the underlying technology works. But you have to understand what it means, really. So the normal Web 2 is centralized because it's run by companies, a Google, a Facebook, name it. They own your data, they own the program, they can change that in a blink of an eye. So same thing for Netflix, everything is centralized. And you, because you have your content there as a creator, or because you have your audience there, is not yours, it's theirs. You don't have the names and nuance of your audience on YouTube or Instagram. They have it. If they block your account for any reason, not even a good reason, but it's because the algorithm does it, you're cut off. So the account doesn't belong to you. It's their account that you can use, right? So that's Web 2. Web 3, everything is yours, right? It's your data. If you have the contacts of your community, it's yours. It stays in what's called your wallet. The access to your content, it's stored in a decentralized way, but only you hold the keys to that, and so on and so forth. So that's a bit the concept. So it means that ownership is essential. Being sovereign is essential. You don't have to ask permission to anyone. So you'll hear a lot the word permissionless. Okay, you don't have to ask permission to deploy your code or run anything that's on the blockchain. It's transparent as much as you want it to be, and so on. So don't get into the details again. It's just for you to understand pretty much where we stand. But all those things, first of all, there's a number of technologies that allow you to abstract that layer of complexity, and that's what Beam is about, really. It's a Beam, it's kind of an interface, so a number of things that run on the blockchain and on different server, but it makes it super easy in a couple of clicks to create your live events, to store your content. It's like your Vimeo, YouTube Live, Twitch, Clubhouse, Zoom, and so on, but on the blockchain, which means that you're in control of everything, and all that in a Shopify mode, so it's your own store. Okay, so we make that super simple that in just in a couple of clicks, you're home and you completely own your store. As a filmmaker, it just means as well that you can engage with your audience. You can be paid directly by your audience without any intermediary, and it's real time. It's completely trackable and auditable because it's there on the blockchain. So everything that we just said is also called Web3, and NFTs are just a piece of Web3, right? So it's an element that can contain an image, a video. It could be a program, and you own an NFT, right? And you can do things. Imagine that an NFT is like an app on your phone. It could be many things, right? It could do many things. It's how you program it. Except that the app, you really own it. It's yours, and you can resell it, right? So ownership means that you can resell. Ownership, it means that you can program royalties and distribution of everything that you receive. You can split it automatically based on a smart contract that's programmed in advance. So everyone knows exactly where the money goes. It's trackable in its real time. We could spend an entire day talking about that. I'm just trying to open doors for you so then you can go and read, research, and get your feet wet into that.
Good.
Yeah.
So I haven't, then my next question is, how do you see distribution? How would distribution change in the coming years?
Yeah, I like that question. And I see some questions coming in from Katerina as well that I wanted to address. But yeah, so how do I see distribution changing in coming years? So I do think that it's not necessarily going to be like an entire switch from the way that people are currently distributing films, right? Like thinking about the way that films are traditionally modeled. Basically, you produce a film kind of like with your team, and only a few stakeholders have access to seeing that before you, for example, submit it to film festivals. Then submitting it to film festivals, you work with maybe a sales agent to try and find a streaming distributor to acquire your film. So I think that some of that will still occur, but I do think that we're going to see a whole new wave of content being created, some of which is going to be exclusively for our style at Beam Web3 film distribution. And then others will be kind of like a hybrid of these two ideas. So I think that, for Web3 filmmaking, for example, we're working with this amazing artist named Miguel Faust. It's actually his 30th birthday today.
Birthday, Miguel.
Yeah, happy birthday, Miguel. So he was able to fund the most of what he needs for his feature-length film based on doing screenings of a short film around the same kind of concept. So he has the short film that he wants to make into a feature film. He was able to host screenings and actually sell NFTs using stills from that short. And with that, he's been able to raise over $600,000 for his feature-length film production. Now, what he's going to do is those holders, right, the people who own those NFTs, they're going to have access to the project from this point forward. Depending on the different levels, different level of access in the participation of the creation of this film. But now he has, thousands of NFT holders who are going to shout from the rooftop when the film is finished and ready to be shared and screened. And they're actually going to, be able to get rewarded, for example, for hosting screenings or, setting up organized watch parties for their communities and friends and family, for example. So I think back to Mihai's point about, what is the goal of distribution? Where are we going with this? It is really about like forming those direct human connections. And then, as a filmmaker, when you're screening, when you're when you're doing a screening, you can provide really insightful additional commentary, or you can do a screening of like behind the scenes footage, or have thought leaders involved in a conversation if it's about a particular subject matter that people can, really dive into and learn a lot about. Are you with me?
Oh, yeah.
Mihai, do you want to add on to that about how you maybe see, traditional distribution and Web3 distribution kind of merging?
Mm.
So Web3 is an evolution, it's not a revolution. Web3 is not gonna tear down and burn down what's going on already. Okay, it's gonna complement and add onto it. It's all good to have your film on Netflix and be screened in theaters. I think that's essential. I mean, films have to be seen, and this is where the audiences are. I think what changes is the relationship between the creator, the filmmaker, and the audience. The word audience kind of makes me uncomfortable because when it's a very technical marketing term, right? It's actually sometimes and too often used to kind of craft a movie or anything that's filmed to a specific public. It's like building a product to fit a certain thing. Oh, I see a gap in the toothpaste segment that needs this and that, so I'm going to build that for that segment that might need it. It's all good. I mean, filmmaking could be anything. And we know many films are made like that. Okay, people want another superhero that, I don't know, has this kind of superpowers. And of course, if you do it with certain actors and with a certain director and with a big budget marketing, then you're going to make so much money. So yeah, it's a product, right? And you have to tell a story, so it's fine. I mean, it's an amusement park. Now, I bet that most of the filmmakers, they have a story to tell. That's why they're filmmakers, right? They're not writers just for hire or someone who needs to put a product on the market, right? They want passionately to tell a story. Therefore, I don't think they like the idea of a studio executive or anyone telling them how to bend and twist their story to fit a specific audience, because by doing that, you're going to make more money, right? What they want is to tell a story in the most genuine way. And well, hopefully many people will watch it and hopefully many people will like it. And I think that's a lot what Web3 allows you to do, because it allows you to connect directly with an audience who's sensitive and ready to listen to your story and is passionate about your story on multiple levels. They may be passionate about the story itself. Maybe they're passionate about the characters of the story. Maybe they're passionate about, I don't know, maybe the cast or the genre or the music or the locations or a mix of all that, right? What you want to do is to find who are the most passionate people about what you're doing. Those people are ready to pay much more than just a cinema ticket to be engaged with you as a filmmaker, and not when the movie's done and put on distribution. They want to engage with you when you start writing your script. They want to be there like a fly on the wall when you start imagining your story. When you start doing your casting tapes, when you start thinking about the locations, about costume design, about the music, about who you're going to use as a director of photography, and so on. How you going to edit that? And the struggles you have when editing. People want to be there because they're passionate about what you're doing. Okay, and once you release your film, they want to make the story grow and make it viral because they're passionate. And the more passionate people will be on board, the more they'll be your advocates. How can you crystallize that passion? It's hard. What do you do, Beverly? Do you send a member cards? I mean, really, how do you do that? How you have the people's email, but it's hard. NFTs are the best model and the best element that you can put into the entire dynamic with your community, because an NFT, once you obtain it, because you paid for it or because you got it by doing certain things for free, that gives you access to certain what we call a utility. Oh, so because I hold that NFT in my wallet, I can attend to live events where the filmmaker is going to talk about, in the writing room, for example, where I'm going to be live on some casting tapes, or this. I mean, it's up to you to imagine, or because I'm going to get the right to maybe help choosing the music and vote on that with other people who hold the same kind of NFT. The sky's the limit. Actually, what I always encourage filmmakers to do is please do understand, take your time, try to understand everything you can do with NFTs, and then incorporate that in your storytelling, incorporate that in the experience you want to build around your film. Every film is different, right? So, an NFT around a science fiction film is not exactly as the NFT for, a social drama, right? It's not the same things, right? So you have to think about what kind of engagement, emotions you want to convey, what kind of virality you want to transform. So back to the distribution, what do you want your film to be distributed, to be seen, number one, and that's also what the community can do, but also to generate revenue and monetize. And that's what your fans will do. And the more you have, the more they do it by purchasing NFTs. There may be different levels of NFTs. There may be newer and newer NFTs that you can release the more you progress in the making of the film. And the thing about NFTs, you're gonna keep, pretty much everything of the money that will then split with your crew and whomever participated. But there's no middleman. It's just the fans buying something from you, and they get an NFT back. And pretty much you keep close to 90-95%, then you split it with whomever you want. It's kind of a very different model, right? So at some point you can maybe imagine that the experiences you created around your film, experience in the sense of connections, right, with the community, can pay for the film. And then you don't even need to sell anything to streamers or to distributors. You want them just to showcase it to the world, because the more people will watch it, the more a percentage of that people will want to buy your NFT because they got passionate about your message or about your film, and that money goes directly to you. That's where the revolution can start.
I got it. Tess, would you like to add something?
No, I think Mihai is awesome, and he does an amazing job of explaining these concepts.
So I got a question here. So what are some of the ways you see streamers like Netflix and Hulu playing a role in this change in distribution model? Or do you think they won't?
I think they have no clue right now. Honestly. They're scratching their heads because they are in a world where, deeply and deep down, decentralization is just the kryptonite for Hulu and Netflix and YouTube and all these people, right? Because they live out of centralization. They are the gatekeepers that separate their users and their subscribers from the creators, and they make money out of that gatekeeping at the end of the day.
Mihai, it's fair to say, would you buy stock for Netflix today? Like, do you think within, let's say, 10 years, they won't be a player anymore in the market?
I think the role, they will still be there because, they have such an immense footprint. They reach pretty much everyone on the planet collectively, right? Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and whomever is in Latin America and China and everywhere. So they're not stupid, they're smart, and they will evolve in such a way that they will keep the audience, and they will adapt their business models to what's coming. And they will release NFTs, don't worry. They will do that for their own content. You will see NFTs for all the shows from Netflix that will allow you to also play their games and maybe do something in the metaverse and maybe trade them. But that will be NFTs that will be controlled by them, that will be owned by them. You don't own anything. It's just a tool, a kit. And maybe many people will find that okay. But fundamentally, it's not yours. Again, it's going to be theirs. They will own it. It's their IP. They control it. They can kick you out if they want to, and they will. And they're going to change the rules the way they want. So I do believe they will play the role, but they're not much that we can do to stop the evolution of the grassroots filmmaking adoption of Web3 and NFTs, because they know people will want to watch this content, right? And they want to be part of that. Especially, they might be able to get content for cheaper because, as I said, you as a filmmaker, if you do your NFT strategy in a smart way, you can retain the NFT rights, and the more people, the more your content is watched on Netflix and Hulu and everywhere else, the more people will buy your NFTs, but that you control. It's not in the hands of Netflix. So in a way, it's your ad channel, it's your free ad channel, right? And you achieve two things at the same time. You achieve visibility for your film, and that's what you want in the first place, your film to be seen by everyone. And second, you control your revenues, because if that can convert into the NFT purchases, well, that's where it goes in your pocket. But I have to say, I mean, this is super new. It's really the early days. I mean, keep in mind that technically NFTs exist since 2018, and that's when we started to work on Beam. But nobody knew exactly what NFTs were until beginning of last year. I can give you a number.
I didn't understand how long has it been around?
2017. I mean, since Ethereum, really. Ethereum launched in 2015, really. It became popular in 2016, 17. But that blockchain, Ethereum, and many other blockchains that came after, integrated that piece of technology that is a token that's unique and that's programmable and could be, exchanged for money and evolve with time and represent many things. That piece of technology doesn't exist on the Bitcoin blockchain. There's no real NFTs on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's new, and everyone, so you have to wrap your head around it. Just two numbers. In 2020, the NFT market was around $20 million worldwide. So NFT market is basically how many NFTs have been minted, sold, and resold. So how much money went into NFTs? 20 million in 2020. 2021, 41 billion. 2022, God knows yet. But the projection is that the NFT market in 5 years will be at least 1 trillion.
Wow.
That includes everything. I mean, it's fashion NFTs, it's music NFTs, it's real estate NFTs, right? It could be anything, but it includes also film NFTs. Nobody was doing film NFTs until mid of last year. And most of the NFTs you see right now are those, maybe you heard about
pictures,
the punks and the apes, and there's like, well, what the hell, those dumb, ugly pictures that, a punk right now, it's probably in the range, or an ape, it's in the range of $200,000-$300,000. Once you say, what the hell is that? That's not nonsense. But you don't pay for the image. You pay for, it's like a club. You pay for what it brings to you, right? The community, the value. It's like a blue chip. It's like owning a famous painter painting. You're going to resell it anytime. If you need cash right now, you can sell your punk or your ape in a second, and you get that cash. But it also gives you utility. By having it, you're part of a number of things that are organized, it's reserved for them, and it's recognition, it's social recognition, it's a community, and you have thousands and thousands of other NFTs that represent other images or other objects that is even in video games or in art, photography, and so on. And film NFTs are recent, are new, and it's a completely new design space. I mean, people are still imagining, all right, how can I do with that? I mean, yeah, an NFT could be just still from my film. It could be a clip. It could be a character. It could be the music. It could be a bunch of things. But maybe it could be even more. It could be something, you know, an NFT of something that happens if I'm buying the NFT of two characters that are in the film, they're fall in love. So if I buy those two characters as NFTs, well, suddenly, because I have them together, a third NFT is born and emerged because they're in love and that's their baby, right? So it's a baby NFT that is created, minted automatically in my wallet and has a value. So you could create stories around that. They're programmable objects, right? So that can evolve in time by themselves, right, on the blockchain. And you define the rules, and you can. So it's an entire universe.
Great. Do you need? Would you like to add anything, Tess?
Well, there are a couple projects I wanted to share with the group, and I'll pop some links into the chat here. I've been following the chat, and there are some interesting questions.
By the way, Tess. So before you go there, let me go ahead and talk. I have a question that came to me.
Yeah.
What do you want independent filmmakers to know as they start creating new content today?
Yeah, I love that. I want independent filmmakers to know that there is a mechanism to build whatever story they want to tell with community in a way that is not going to violate their creative direction. So please do create exactly what your imagination has in mind, because the audience will be there, and you will be able to monetize it. And I think the other thing is that it's never too early, right, to start building your community. And I even said this before I knew really what Web3 was or about Beam even. You know, the second that you are really beginning a project, it's not too early to, you know, I used to say like start an Instagram or, you know, use social media tools, but it's not too early to start building your community. So when you have an idea or something that you feel you can put out to the world and get people to rally behind, that's when you start building your community. And the way of building films or projects using Film 3 or Web3 technologies is really focused on including people in that journey. So I would just say, get started as soon as possible.
Good. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Continue.
Oh, just my sentence ends at in community building.
So community building. Mihai, do you remember the question?
Say it again. I got distracted by the chat.
I know. It happens. What do you want independent filmmakers to know as they start creating new content today?
Mihai, distracted by the chat.
Yeah. Great people in the chat. Hi, everyone. You know, I think, first of all, you don't have to change anything in what you do, and you can incorporate things progressively. But I want to encourage the filmmakers to be a bit more curious and entrepreneurial into getting their hands dirty with what this technology allows. There's nothing wrong with fire. There's nothing wrong with electricity. You don't have to be scared of. Yes, it could burn you, but if you know how to use it, it could make, you know, marvelous things for you. So I would say try to wrap your head, try to understand what people are doing or saying, try to especially engage with the community that's already in that space, because it's an exploration. It's not like someone is standing on a stage knowing everything and imparting knowledge to the others who have no clue. We're not at all in that stage of the industry, nor is it the spirit of the Web3 community. It's a very, very inclusive community. It's super, super easy to get in touch with any of us, with the entire Web3 filmmaking community, participating in the chats we're having, conversations, conferences, and so on. And the reason why I'm saying that is that you as a filmmaker, you cannot create if you don't understand a tiny bit how a camera works. So that's someone ringing the bell. How a camera works, or how light works, or sound, and so on. Web3, NFT, and those technologies allow you to really incorporate that as a tool in your craft, in the filmmaking, right? Sorry.
Pogo.
I have the problem of not being in a nice auditorium, but being at home.
Pogo has some words on film 3.
So you could just scratch the surface and do it very easily, or go as deep as you can and figure it out. Be creative. I mean, embrace NFTs and Web3 as one more additional layer of your film. But don't do that at the end. Do that at the very, as early as you can, actually. And I would say it's the same with music. You cannot say, I don't care whatever my sound design or my music will be. You have to feel it. So you have to kind of get it. Same thing with that. The more you get into that, the more you'll be able to connect in an incredible way with the audience and augment what you can do with your film.
Okay, and what I would like to do now is, Tess, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, so I've actually just been seeing Katerina's questions. The best way to contact me is either via, I'll pop my email here, but really we spend a lot of our time on what's called Discord. I don't know if anyone here has used Discord, but it's a commonly used way of communicating with the Web3 entities. So
should I post your WhatsApp number here for them?
Ooh, yeah, very, very direct to my WhatsApp. I mean, honestly, all my channels are always open. But yeah, let me share a couple ways. So
and Mihai, what's the best way to contact you?
So for Mihai and myself, you can reach us both via our emails, tess@beam.xyz, mihai@beam.xyz. And then you can also join us on our Discord. So I'll pop a chat, a link to that here in the chat. And it's basically guys. Like a.
Okay, so when we.
Sorry, I realized I was on mute.
Yeah, but Tess put you. She wrote.
No, but something I want to add is that the best ever way to be in touch with us and to see our thought process, with whom we're engaging, what we're doing, and so on, is on Twitter. Twitter, I mean, again.
What's your Twitter account?
So I'm going to post it here. There we go.
Okay.
So you have to understand that social media are different for different things. If you are more, I don't know, into photography or a bunch of other things, you're on Instagram, more professional is maybe LinkedIn, and other friends and other connections is maybe Facebook and and so on. Twitter could be for many things, but I consider that everything that's Web3, everything that's film for Web3 is happening on Twitter. I mean, this is where all the conversations happen. This is where people share the knowledge. This is where people get to become friends and know each other. And it's very inclusive. It's very easy. So maybe you're not on Twitter, but if you're not, please get there. Just follow us, follow myself, Tess, Beam, see what the people we're connected with, who we mentioned. That's the fastest way and the best way to learn, to get connected with the whole community, to and get in touch with us. My DMs are open on Twitter, so just send me a direct message on Twitter as well. Yeah, so
Perfect.
that's the best advice I can give you.
Mihai, I want to thank you very much for participating, Tess, as well. I hope the audience enjoyed as much as I did. When Nino tries to put together these festivals, we're always hoping to help to enlighten the filmmakers so they can further their career. And I think you guys have done a wonderful job. And now everybody can get in touch with both Tess and Mihai, and I hope you guys have a great success in your journey, and that Beam becomes bigger than Netflix.
Well, so let me tell you that, and so people understand, we're not building a platform because we were repeating the same problem over and over again. Beam allows you to become your own platform. So you're going to be at home with your own name or your own film or your own distribution company. What we're providing you is the very simple tools that in a couple of clicks, you build your own platform, which is a streaming platform, distribution platform, live events and live screening platforms, community engagement platforms, super simple to use and super powerful. So that's the power of Web3. You become your own platform.
Thank you very much, Mihai. You guys have a great day, and I hope to see you next year.
Thank you, Frederico.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yes.